My parents wouldn't stop sneaking into my place, so I packed up and left without a word and watched them freak out. This isn't just a story about boundaries. It's about the seismic shock of realizing the people you trust most are systematically dismantling your life. It started subtly, an unlocked door, and then exploded into a full-blown psychological invasion by my own family, orchestrated with a level of chilling precision I never thought possible. I walked up to my apartment door after another grueling day of debugging code, only to find it unlocked. Again, my heart didn't just sink, it plummeted. I pushed it open, and there she was, my mother, Helen, her hands in my kitchen cabinets, rearranging my spices into some incomprehensible order. And there he was, my father, Richard, lounging on my couch, casually flipping through my mail like it was the morning newspaper. This was the fourth time this month they'd used their emergency key to just be in my space. They called it checking on me. I'd moved out 2 years ago, a full-grown 28-year-old, but their visits had become full-scale invasions of my privacy. My belongings tossed, furniture rearranged to their liking. I stood there, watching my 62-year-old mom meticulously organize my paprika away from my vanilla extract, while my dad scrutinized my credit card statements. It was surreal. Like walking into someone else's life, a life where basic boundaries simply didn't exist. Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? I tried to keep my voice steady, but the anger was a live wire in my chest. Helen spun around, that bright, disarming smile plastered on her face, the one she always wore when she knew she'd been caught red-handed. Oh, Tommy, perfect timing. I was just fixing your kitchen. Paprika next to vanilla extract? It makes no sense from a cooking perspective. Honey. Richard finally looked up from my statements, a disapproving frown etched on his face. Son, you're spending way too much on takeout. $43 at that Thai place last week? Your mother could make the same meal for 8. I took a deep breath, remembering our conversation just 2 weeks prior about respecting my privacy. We talked about this. You can't just come into my apartment whenever you feel like it. I'm 28 years old. Helen waved her hand, dismissing my concerns. A mother never stops worrying, Tommy. Besides, this place was a complete disaster when we arrived. Dishes in the sink, laundry on the floor. The truth was, my apartment had been perfectly normal. A coffee mug and yesterday's jeans weren't a disaster. But explaining normal adult living to them felt utterly impossible. This wasn't an isolated incident. It had started innocently 6 months ago, small, helpful visits that morphed into something truly invasive. Helen would water plants I never asked her to, then reorganize my bookshelves because my system was clearly inferior. Richard would fix a squeaky hinge I hadn't even noticed, then spend an hour critiquing my finances while rummaging through my desk. My girlfriend, Sarah, had stopped coming over. She felt uncomfortable, always anticipating them walking in. Last month, Helen had burst in with her key while Sarah was getting dressed after a shower. It was awkward, violating, and left Sarah questioning if our relationship had any privacy at all. The examples piled up. My mom threw away my vintage band t-shirts, calling them ratty, replacing them with polo shirts she'd bought without asking my size. My dad reorganized my home office computer setup, moving my monitor, rearranging cables. They went through my documents, questioning everything from my grocery choices to my internet provider. Helen had called my car insurance company. Richard contacted my ISP to complain about my internet speed. These were people who claimed to love me, systematically tearing down the independence I'd fought so hard to build. As a software developer at a tech startup, I solved complex problems daily. I had moved out specifically to establish adult autonomy. My mom, a retired teacher, seemed to channel her empty nest syndrome into controlling my life. My dad, a successful plumber, managed me like an employee, constantly offering unsolicited advice. Today, I decided to fight back. I pulled out my phone and showed them a detailed list I'd been keeping. 23 separate incidents in 6 months. Look, I said, scrolling through dates and descriptions. March 15th, you threw away my coffee table books. March 22nd, you rearranged my entire closet and donated clothes without asking. April 3rd, you installed a new shower head because you didn't like my water pressure. Helen's face crumpled. We're only trying to help you, sweetie. You work such long hours, and this place needs attention. Richard stood up, defensive. You're being ungrateful, Tom. We raised you better than this. Help? I yelled, my frustration finally boiling over. Help would be asking first. Help would be respecting my decisions about my own space. This isn't help, it's control. The guilt tactics started immediately. Helen's eyes welled up. She missed taking care of me, the empty house, her worries about my eating habits. Expert emotional manipulation. Richard's approach was more direct. I was selfish. My desire for independence was a rejection of family values. I pleaded with them, explaining that healthy relationships require mutual respect, that their constant presence was affecting my mental health and my relationship with Sarah. I offered compromises, scheduled visits, family dinners, regular calls. Anything to regain control of my own space. As we argued, Helen reached into her purse. She pulled out a keyring with 3 identical keys, each clearly labeled with my apartment number. I had extras made, she admitted, her voice small but defiant. The locksmith said it was smart to have backups for emergencies. My blood ran cold. Extras? I'd asked for the emergency key back last month. Well, what if something really happened to you? Helen's voice grew stronger. What if you had an accident and we couldn't get in? Richard nodded. We gave one to your Aunt Patricia and one to Jennifer. Families should look out for each other. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Not only had my parents been invading my privacy, but they distributed keys to other family members without my knowledge. This wasn't overprotective parenting. It was a coordinated family effort to maintain control over my adult life. The shock left me speechless. Who else has been coming into my apartment? I demanded, my voice cracking. Helen and Richard exchanged a nervous glance. Just Patricia and Jennifer, Tommy. They're family. They care about you, too. Patricia, my mom's sister, a real estate agent with strong opinions about everything. Jennifer, my older sister, the golden child, who never challenged our parents. I immediately pulled out my phone. I'd installed a security app recently, just a gut feeling. The motion detection logs told a chilling story. Patricia's visits, twice weekly during my work hours. Jennifer's, weekend mornings, when I was usually out. This wasn't casual concern, it was organized surveillance. I called Patricia first. My hands shook. Patricia, have you been going into my apartment? There was a pause. Your mother asked me to check on the place. She worried about you living alone. I've been living alone for 2 years. Well, you know Helen worries. I just take a few photos to show her everything's okay. Photos. My aunt was documenting my living space, reporting back to my mother like some domestic intelligence operative. I felt sick. Next, Jennifer. Jenny, we need to talk about you having a key to my apartment. Oh, that. Her tone was dismissive. Mom asked me to keep an eye on things. I just check your mail and make sure you're eating actual food. You've always been helpless with practical things. Through questioning both of them, I discovered the existence of Tom Watch, a group chat where my extended family shared updates on my apartment, dating life, and daily habits. Patricia confessed to photographing my fridge contents and medicine cabinet, sharing images with Helen. Jennifer admitted to monitoring my mail, even intercepting packages she deemed inappropriate. The chat included my cousin Derek, Uncle Paul, and even my maternal grandmother. They treated me like an incompetent child. When I confronted them individually, each defended their actions as loving and necessary. Derek had been monitoring my social media. Uncle Paul drove by my apartment, even speaking to my neighbors about my habits. My grandmother, the most shocking, revealed she'd been receiving weekly reports and encouraging their involvement because she worried I was too isolated. Sarah had noticed unfamiliar older adults in my building. My college roommate, Jake, assumed I still lived with family. My coworker, Lisa, had seen a woman photographing the building directory. It all clicked. The realization that my entire extended family viewed me as incompetent was devastating. I started questioning my own decisions. Their constant oversight had made me a prisoner in my own apartment. I'd started cleaning obsessively before work, hiding personal items, anxious about normal adult choices. Then came the conversation with Jennifer, face to face. We met at a coffee shop. She brought her laptop. Look, Tom, we're not trying to control you, she said, opening it. We're just documenting that you're okay. When I saw on her screen, my blood ran cold. She had created a comprehensive digital file about my private life. Folders for finances, health, social life, work, each filled with systematic photographs of my personal documents, bank statements, credit card bills, medical cards. The financial folder had Jennifer's handwritten notes, analyzing my spending. The health folder included photos of prescription bottles and even the contents of my bathroom trash can. But the worst part? The work folder. Photographs of confidential company documents I'd brought home. Internal emails, project specifications, strategic planning materials. My employer would never authorize family to access these. Jennifer explained, matter-of-factly, that she'd been sharing this with Helen, who used these reports to make unsolicited decisions about my life. The scope of their information gathering was staggering, potentially illegal. This was beyond family concern, it was stalking. This discovery pushed me to investigate further. I called HR at work. Marcus Rodriguez, my manager, awkwardly admitted Helen had contacted him 3 times in the past month. She'd expressed concern about my rebellious phase, asking them to monitor my performance for instability. I didn't know how to handle it. Marcus confessed, clearly uncomfortable. She seemed genuinely worried, but the calls felt inappropriate. My professional reputation, 3 years in the making, was being undermined. Management had discussed my family situation, questioning if it would affect my ability to handle increased responsibilities. My doctor's office confirmed Helen had called twice, claiming I was isolating myself and making irrational decisions. My bank had records of Helen inquiring about unusual spending patterns, specifically independence-related purchases like premium cable and restaurant meals. She suggested these expenses indicated poor judgment. Most shockingly, Helen had contacted my apartment management multiple times. She complained about concerning visitors, Sarah, and requested they monitor my apartment for inappropriate behavior. David Chun, the apartment manager, called me. "Your mother seemed very worried," he said diplomatically. "She asked us to keep an eye on your apartment for signs of distress. We didn't act on her requests, but we documented the calls." The impact on Sarah was even more devastating. When I finally got her to open up, she revealed that 3 weeks ago, Helen had approached her at a coffee shop near my office, somehow knowing her work schedule. Helen had interrogated her, disguised as a friendly chat. She asked me about our relationship, if we were sexually active, if I'd noticed any concerning changes in your behavior, Sarah explained, her voice shaking with anger. Helen warned Sarah that I had a history of being irresponsible with money and relationships, citing exaggerated examples from high school. She suggested Sarah reconsider our relationship before becoming too emotionally invested. The manipulation was sophisticated and cruel. Sarah admitted the conversation had planted seeds of doubt that had been growing for weeks. Back at work, the damage was clearer. Marcus said Helen's calls made the management team question my reliability. They'd been hesitant to offer me the promotion I was working toward. "We weren't sure if you were dealing with mental health issues or family problems," Marcus said. "The promotion involves managing a team. We need someone who can maintain professional boundaries." My family's interference was systematically destroying the adult life I had worked so hard to build. My career stalled, my relationship strained, my reputation damaged. I consulted a lawyer. Their actions constituted harassment, invasion of privacy, even identity theft. I had grounds for a restraining order, but legal action would likely destroy family relationships permanently. The emotional toll was unbearable. I questioned every decision. Their constant criticism had created a mental state where I doubted my own judgment. Sleep became difficult. Panic attacks when I found evidence of their visits. The stress affected my work, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then came the breaking point. A Thursday afternoon call from Mike Thompson, my apartment complex security guard. "Your parents are in the building manager's office with a locksmith," he said, his voice uncertain. "They're saying you gave them permission to change your locks for better security. It seems weird." My heart raced. They had moved beyond surveillance. This was an attempted takeover. They were trying to establish complete physical control over my living space, to make me a prisoner in my own home. "Don't let them do anything," I told Mike urgently. "I never gave permission for any lock changes. I'm coming home right now." I rushed out of the office, ignoring my coworkers' concerned questions. My parents weren't just monitoring me. They were trying to force me back into a childlike dependency. I arrived at my building to a scene straight out of a psychological thriller. Helen and Richard were in David Chen's office with a locksmith and a stack of official-looking documents. Through the glass, I saw my mom gesturing emphatically, my dad crossing his arms in stubborn determination. Outside, a U-Haul sat loaded. My cousin Derek leaned against it, smoking, clearly waiting for instructions. I walked into the office. Helen immediately brightened. "Oh, perfect, Tommy. We were just explaining to David about the security upgrades we discussed." David looked confused and uncomfortable. "Tom, your parents have some documents here that they say give them authority to make changes to your apartment for safety reasons." Helen produced a folder. It contained what appeared to be legal paperwork, complete with seals and signatures. It claimed I had signed over emergency housing decisions to them due to stress-related cognitive issues affecting my judgment. "The family lawyer helped us prepare these," Richard explained, as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world. "You've been showing signs of mental instability, and we can't stand by while you make decisions that could hurt you." I examined the documents. The signatures were forged. Helen had somehow obtained copies of my signature and recreated them on forms that appeared to give her temporary guardianship. The locksmith, an older man named Frank, looked skeptical. "Usually the tenant has to be present for lock changes," he said. "This is kind of an unusual arrangement." Richard's response was aggressive. "Our son is experiencing mental health challenges. These documents give us legal authority to act in his best interest." As I processed this, more family arrived. Patricia with cleaning supplies. Jennifer and her husband Steve for emotional support. Even my grandparents sat in the lobby, providing a veneer of moral authority. Helen had consulted a family lawyer who helped create the fraudulent documents. "We're not trying to hurt you, sweetie," Helen said, her voice dripping with false compassion. "We're trying to save you from making mistakes that could ruin your future. Living alone obviously isn't working for you." I realized openly fighting them would only make me appear unstable. So, I made a decision. I would secretly document everything while appearing to cooperate. I discreetly activated the voice recording app on my phone. Helen's admission of forged documents, Richard's threats, Patricia's confession of monitoring my life, Jennifer's detailed explanation of her surveillance. It was all being recorded. While they continued their intervention, I texted my lawyer and doctor, alerting them to the fraudulent documents and requesting immediate assistance. My attorney confirmed the papers were invalid. Dr. Amanda Foster, my primary care physician, was shocked. She confirmed Helen's claims about my mental state were unfounded and potentially illegal. The emotional manipulation reached a crescendo. Helen played the devastated mother, sobbing, "This isn't about control. This is about love." Richard became aggressive, accusing me of being brainwashed by outsiders. Instead of fighting their narrative directly, I made a strategic decision that would shock them and prove my competence once and for all. "You're right," I said, letting my voice sound defeated, even grateful. "I guess I wasn't ready for this much independence. Maybe I do need more family support." Helen beamed with triumph. Richard nodded approvingly. They saw my compliance as validation. As they finished their preparations, Helen revealed the ultimate goal. She'd already contacted my landlord to discuss terminating my lease. "We've prepared your old room at home," she announced proudly. "You can stay with us temporarily while we find you a nice place in our neighborhood." Their plan was complete domination, disguised as love. They intended to move me back into my childhood bedroom, terminate my independence, establish permanent oversight. Helen had been planning this forced regression for weeks. For the next 3 days, I played the part of the grateful son. I thanked them for opening my eyes, expressed relief they'd intervened. "You were right about everything," I told them during a family dinner. My performance was convincing. I drew on genuine emotions of exhaustion and frustration, reframing them as gratitude. Helen beamed. Richard approved. While they celebrated, I was executing the most comprehensive escape plan of my adult life. Using my work computer and Jake's address, I arranged a new apartment across town. A secure building with controlled access, modern, downtown, explicitly focused on independent living. A 24-hour doorman, security cameras, strict visitor policies. I opened a new bank account, transferred savings, set up automatic payments. I changed every single password, enabled two-factor authentication, updated security questions. My employer was surprisingly supportive. Marcus agreed to let me work remotely for a week. I arranged mail forwarding to a P.O. box. Rebuilding trust with Sarah was the hardest part. I explained my escape strategy, asking for her support, acknowledging I had to earn back her trust. "I know this sounds crazy," I told her. But the only way to shock them into respecting boundaries is to prove I can live independently without their knowledge or assistance. She was hesitant at first, but when she fully understood the extent of their manipulation, she became completely committed. Jake, my college roommate, eagerly agreed to help coordinate the move. My cousin Brian, who'd always felt smothered, became an invaluable ally, providing inside info on family plans. He revealed he'd been subjected to similar monitoring. He said my courage was inspiring him to set his own boundaries. I also sought professional help. 3 sessions with Dr. Rebecca Martinez, a therapist specializing in family boundary issues. She confirmed their behavior was a form of psychological abuse, designed to maintain dependence. Healthy families support independence, she explained. What you're describing is control. Your plan to establish complete independence is a reasonable response to unreasonable behavior. Financially, I plan meticulously. Emergency fund for 6 months, automatic payments for everything. I created a decoy, a fake apartment listing in their preferred neighborhood. I told them I was excited about a compromised location where they could visit regularly. We scheduled a fake viewing for Saturday morning at 10 a.m., exactly when I'd execute my real move. Professional movers, utilities scheduled, new apartment ready. My support network was a military operation. Sarah oversaw packing. Jake handled logistics. Brian provided intelligence, ensuring they stayed focused on the fake viewing. Friday evening, as I prepared for the most dramatic day of my adult life, I overheard a phone conversation. Helen was talking to a family consultant about establishing permanent oversight of my life. She was discussing hiring a private investigator, researching legal ways to gain authority over my finances, living arrangements, even romantic relationships. "We can't let this happen again," she told the consultant. "Sometimes children need to be protected from their own poor judgment, even when they're adults." Their goal wasn't temporary assistance, it was permanent authority. Saturday morning. Perfect weather. I woke early, texted my parents, expressing excitement for the viewing, confirming I'd meet them at the fake address at 10 o'clock. While Helen and Richard drove across town, my team executed the move. Jake arrived at my parents' house at 8:30. Sarah coordinated with the movers at my new location. The crew, briefed on the unusual situation, worked with remarkable efficiency. By 9:15, all my belongings were loaded, en route to my new downtown loft. Brian confirmed my parents were still driving towards the fake address. My new apartment building was everything I'd hoped for in terms of security. The doorman, James, a retired police officer, took building security seriously. "Don't worry about unauthorized visitors," James assured me. "No one gets upstairs without tenant approval." The apartment itself was a complete transformation. Modern, contemporary, downtown views, reflecting my tastes. Sarah arrived with champagne and takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant, the same one my father had criticized. We toasted my independence, setting up my home office with my computer configuration, not Richard's. At exactly 10:15, my phone exploded. Calls and texts. Helen and Richard had discovered the address didn't exist. They'd rushed back home to find my belongings gone. The first call was from Helen, hysterical. "Tommy, where are you? Your room is empty. What's happening?" I let it go to voicemail, focused on arranging furniture. Richard's voicemails were angrier. "Tom, this is ridiculous. Call us back immediately. Your mother is worried sick." Instead of answering, I composed a carefully crafted group text to the entire extended family, every member of Tom Watch. I included photos of my new apartment, a clear explanation. "I've moved to a new apartment where I can live independently without unauthorized family interference. The past months of surveillance, manipulation, and control have been unacceptable. I'm not rejecting family relationships, but I am establishing non-negotiable boundaries about privacy and respect." I attached documentation of their harassment, photos of the forged legal documents, screenshots from the Tom Watch group chat Brian had provided, and copies of my security camera footage. The family response was immediate and divided. Patricia and Jennifer supported Helen, calling me ungrateful, questioning my mental state. But Brian and several younger cousins expressed support. My cousin Sarah, in college, facing similar oversight, sent a private message, congratulating me and asking for advice. Most surprisingly, my grandparents called within an hour. They were appalled. Grandmother Dorothy admitted she'd received reports but never understood the extent of the monitoring. I thought your mother was just keeping in touch, she said. I had no idea about the keys and the photographing and all that business. That doesn't sound like normal family concern to me. My employer's response was equally validating. Marcus called Saturday afternoon. I'm impressed by how you handled a difficult situation, he said. The leadership team has been discussing your problem-solving skills. We'd like to offer you the senior developer position with a 15% salary increase. Sarah's reaction was the most important. She admitted she'd been close to ending our relationship, but seeing my courage had convinced her. I'm proud of you, she said, as we arranged books on my new shelves. I was starting to wonder if you would ever be able to stand up to them. This shows me you're serious about being an independent adult who can make his own decisions about our relationship. The legal protection I'd arranged was falling into place. My attorney filed cease and desist orders against everyone involved in the surveillance. He explained that the documented evidence would support restraining orders if they continued. As evening approached, I felt a peace I hadn't experienced in months. My new apartment felt truly private, secure. My relationship with Sarah stronger. My professional life advancing. But the sense of triumph was interrupted by a call from James, the doorman, at 8:30 p.m. Helen and Richard were in the lobby, demanding access. They're claiming you're mentally ill and in danger, James reported. Your mother is pretty upset and your father is threatening to call the police. I asked James to activate the building's security cameras. I wanted a record. When James denied them access, Helen created a scene. She sobbed loudly about her son being in danger. Richard became aggressive. This is exactly the kind of unstable behavior that proves he needs family supervision, he shouted. You're putting a mentally ill person at risk. Helen claimed I had a history of mental health problems, demanding a welfare check. The security footage captured it all: erratic, manipulative, undeniable evidence of their true intentions. James handled it professionally, eventually making them leave, but not before Richard threatened to find other ways to get access. The security footage became a crucial turning point. When James provided me with the video, I was shocked by how aggressive my parents appeared. Helen's sobbing looked manipulative. Richard's threats, controlling. More importantly, when my grandparents requested to see the footage, they were appalled. Grandmother Dorothy called Helen immediately. I raised you better than that, Helen, she said. Lying about mental illness and threatening building staff is not normal parental concern. The objective documentation forced my parents to confront how their actions appeared to outsiders. Within a week, my grandparents arranged a family meeting. The formal intervention by the family's eldest members carried weight that my individual protests never could. I arrived with a comprehensive presentation, security footage, forged documents, surveillance photos, recorded conversations. Helen broke down. Seeing the Tom Watch group chat messages displayed on my laptop made her realize how her behavior looked. I never meant for it to become like this, she sobbed. I just miss taking care of you. Empty nest syndrome made me crazy, and I convinced myself that controlling your life was the same as loving you. Richard's admission was more difficult. He acknowledged his business owner mentality had led him to treat me like an employee, not a son. I built my business by controlling every detail, he explained, subdued. I forgot that raising successful children means teaching them to make their own decisions. The extended family members also expressed remorse. Patricia admitted her real estate background made her view my apartment as a property to be managed. Jennifer's apology was particularly meaningful. She admitted her competitive relationship with me influenced her willingness to undermine my independence. Together, we established clear boundaries. Weekly family dinners, scheduled phone calls. Most importantly, a family agreement. Personal information wouldn't be shared without permission. Romantic relationships were private. 6 months later, my promotion at work led to additional responsibilities and recognition. My professional reputation was stronger than ever. Sarah and I decided to move in together. My parents attended our housewarming party as respectful guests. Helen even apologized to Sarah privately. Tom Watch was deleted. Brian used my example to set his own boundaries. My relationship with my parents evolved. Helen channeled her nurturing energy into volunteering. Richard learned to offer advice only when asked. I developed confidence, learned to trust my instincts. I learned that true independence isn't about physical separation, but about mutual respect and healthy boundaries. The experience taught me the profound difference between love and control. People who truly love you want you to succeed. Control, disguised as love, prevents growth. By refusing to accept their controlling behavior, I forced them to confront their own issues. Sometimes, protecting your autonomy is an act of love toward both yourself and the people who care about you. Today, I live in genuine contentment, thriving in my career, enjoying a strong relationship with Sarah, and maintaining loving, respectful connections with my family. The courage required to establish boundaries created space for real love to flourish, proving that sometimes you have to risk losing someone temporarily to save the relationship permanently. Independence and family love aren't opposing forces. They are complementary. When family members respect each other's autonomy, love can be expressed freely, not demanded through control. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who meant well but crossed important lines? How did you balance maintaining relationships while protecting your independence? Share your experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video if it resonated with your own struggles for adult autonomy. Subscribe for more stories about overcoming family challenges and building healthier relationships, and share this with anyone who might be dealing with similar boundary issues. Remember that protecting your independence isn't selfish. It's necessary for building the kind of relationships that truly support your growth and happiness.